Hey, Seattle hockey fans, happy Friday. We are coming to you right after not only do the Seattle Kraken get a 5-1 win, but Shane Wright on his birthday helps Canada to a consecutive World Juniors gold medal. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit more next week, actually, because we have for you a pre-recorded show. It's a squadcast with Ty Dane Gonzalez from Locked On Mariners. That's right. We're going to talk Winter Classic at T-Mobile Park. That's coming up on Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? It feels pretty good to be a Seattle sports fan. Of course, we were keeping tabs on Shane Wright, but I know that there are a lot of other Seattle-based players that won gold for Canada. Congrats to all of them, including, of course, our very own Shane Wright and captain of this Canadian team at World Juniors. They were able to survive Czechia. They were up 2-0, and then Czechia late in the third gets 2 goals to take it to overtime. But ultimately, it would be Canada that brings home gold. Like I said, we'll talk about that a little bit more Monday because I have a pre-recorded show for you. We are going to welcome in Ty Dane Gonzalez for a Squadcast episode, giving you a little bit more of our thoughts on the Winter Classic. Now, fun fact, and you'll hear it throughout the interview, but Ty and I actually recorded this before yesterday's game in Toronto, but Ty Dane Gonzalez was there. He went to his first ever hockey game, and it happens to be in Toronto, the Seattle Kraken in town. And I don't know, Ty, you might be a good luck charm. Without further ado, here is my Squadcast episode with your Locked On Mariners host, Ty Dane Gonzalez. All right, Seattle sports fans, we are here with a very special crossover episode, or as I like to say on Locked On Kraken, a squadcast. I am joined by Ty Dane Gonzalez, host of Locked On Mariners. That is your daily podcast for the Seattle Mariners. Excuse me. I'm so excited to talk with you, Ty. I know we've crossed paths in our little virtual studios a time or two, but this is the first time that we're hopping on the microphone and doing an episode together. How are you?
I'm doing great, Erica. Thank you so much for the invite to do this. I'm looking forward to talking hockey. I've been following the Kraken all year long, watching basically every game. So I know the frustrations. I know the ups. I know the downs. I know all of it. And I got to thank you because I'm a newer hockey fan, and Locked On Kraken's one of my biggest resources for learning the game. So,
that's very kind.
Yeah, I especially love the episodes with Allison Lucan. She's great.
Yes.
She's excellent. And just watching this team over the last couple of months here has been a lot of fun. So looking forward to talking about that. Looking forward to talking some M's and some Winter Classic potentially.
Oh yeah, and that's we're gonna start with the goods first. The Winter Classic. Now, I'm sure you've heard the rumors. You had heard the rumors before the official announcement at the time of this recording earlier this week. But we'd been hearing it's going to be Kraken, Vegas Golden Knights. There had been a few different locations thrown out, but we know that it's officially official. We will be taking the ice at T-Mobile Park. So that, of course, is very familiar terrain and territory to you and your listeners. What were your initial reactions when you heard that the Winter Classic was not only coming to Seattle, but that it was coming to T-Mobile?
Oh, I was super pumped because, again, like I'm a newer hockey fan, but I'm very aware of the Winter Classic. I've been aware of it for a long time, and I love the whole aesthetic of it. I love the the old school vibe. I love like the brown pads and all that stuff. It's awesome. I love the jerseys. So I'm like through the roof excited about it. Plus, I love the Kraken sweaters. I love the reverse retro, and like I'm really excited to see what they do with the New Jersey and all that stuff. So really pumped about that. And there's no more beautiful place to host this event than T-Mobile Park, one of the best ballparks in all of baseball, if not the best. And so I'm just I'm beyond thrilled that they were able to work this out and make this thing happen.
Yeah, I've been to T-Mobile Park a time or two well before I even started the Locked On Kraken podcast. It is absolutely beautiful. Love it there. I also think, and maybe I'm biased because I am a New York Metropolitans fan through and through, but there's just some baseball parks where they're not even conducive, in my opinion, Yankees, to baseball, let alone anything else. Like, they're not comfortable, they're not open, but T-Mobile Park has a great flow. That's what you want, especially for a winter classic where everyone's, chugging hot chocolate and coffee to stay warm, and the sight lines are beautiful. But before we get into where we're actually going to play, I do want to ask you about two other locations that I heard were in the mix. Your thoughts on that and why you think T-Mobile won out. So one is Husky Stadium. So that's a pretty fantastic view from there, not going to lie. And I hear that Washington football games can get pretty raucous and pretty loud. So there's that. And then essentially a stone's throw away is Lumen Field, which was another option that we'd been hearing tossed about. What are your thoughts? And again, why do you think T-Mobile won out?
So, I'm not involved in those decision-making processes, so I don't really know like what's best aesthetically and what's the most convenient for a hockey viewing experience in general. Actually, I've never been to a hockey game. I'm going to my first hockey game tomorrow. I live in Toronto, going to see Kraken Maple Leafs tomorrow, so that's going to be cool. But so I don't really know what would be best for a hockey viewing experience, but I feel like Lumen Field is such a huge stadium that if you're going to be selling all of those seats, that there's going to be, no one's going to have interest in watching hockey from like, a million miles in the sky, right? Husky Stadium, that's a really, beautiful place. But I think at the end of the day, the Mariners and also, you got to think that these two teams are very intertwined with the Root Sports connection and all that. Obviously, the Mariners own Root Sports, so there's a deep connection there already. And so I think it just made the most sense at the end of the day to bring it to T-Mobile Park. And I know that they've put it at a few football stadiums in the past, the Winter Classic, but I feel like it works best in a baseball stadium just because of the classic feel of it all and just everything that goes into it. So I think it's just a perfect match for them to make it happen at T-Mo.
Yeah, I love that. This is a time where calling baseball America's pastime really fits into the vibe, to your point. So I love that. Yeah, we've seen it at Gillette and places like that, but we also have seen that there is an uptick in baseball stadium. I think Coors Field has been there. We know that Citi Field hosted. We just saw that Fenway, that looked super cool. Fenway got to host this year. So yeah, I like the vibes. You mentioned the throwback though. So I mentioned I am a New York Metropolitans fan, but of course,
gotta love the Mets. Get a home run, baby. Gotta love the Mets.
Gotta love the Mets. But then of course there's the Seattle Metropolitans, the first ever Seattle and team to win the Stanley Cup. Now you talked about the reverse retros and whatnot. A lot of people are thinking that we might go for the Seattle Metropolitans look for the outdoor classic, but we've also seen that teams, maybe if not on the ice, but for warmups, they go retro with an old school baseball uniform, with the pants up, socks out. That's how we got to do it. So I want to know first, if we were to do a toss back, an homage to the M's, is there a particular uniform or era that you think would really fit into a winter classic vibe?
So a lot of people hate this, but I love like the rookie Griffey jerseys, like the Griffey rookie card where he's wearing with the hat with the yeah. Like those uniforms are my favorites of the Mariners. I've wanted them to go back to the royal and gold for so long, and it's never going to happen. And everyone calls me an idiot on Twitter whenever I talk about it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I love those, but
I would love that.
Ken Griffey, so there's that.
Yeah,
well, both of them, but Ken Griffey Jr. in particular.
So I would love something that paid homage to that, or maybe the trident.
Yes, I was thinking
You know?
about that too. That I feel like it fits into our theme, our vibe. That could work.
Yeah, the Mariners, though, I mean, like they came in in the late 70s, so they don't necessarily have that classic feel that, like,
Sure.
going back to Fenway feels like, that's just a
Yeah.
little bit different. That's like legacy team type stuff. But I think there could be a way to incorporate some of the old school Mariners look into it, or maybe just pay homage to Seattle sports in general. Let's get some Sonics influence in there, something like that. Let's make it happen.
I think you're right. There's probably going to lean into more of the Seattle history. I still think we're going to save the Seattle Metropolitans throwback for after we've at least made a playoff run. I think that makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people are chomping at the bit to see it. It's a really nice throwback. But I agree with you. There's not really that 100-year plus history between, obviously not with us and not with the M's yet. But you know what? I'm curious, Ty, what that means as far as this particular Winter Classic, because we're also competing against the Vegas Golden Knights. So, they're if not for us, they are the brand new kid. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they interpret kind of the classic part of the Winter Classic thing. So, but coming up next, I want to talk a little bit more about the event that will happen, the big event that's going to happen at T-Mobile Park prior to the Winter Classic. You might know a thing or two about, an all-star game that's happening, including a Swingman Classic. So I want to talk about that. We'll get into it with Ty Dane Gonzalez of Locked On Mariners coming up next. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily routine. I hope you're enjoying my conversation with Ty. I think you can tell we had a good time with it, and there is more to come. But right now, I want to let you know that this episode of Locked On Kraken is brought to you by Built Bar. If you are looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And I'm not exactly sure how they do this, but you only get 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. Now, it used to be that we would send you to built.com, and you can still get your Built Bars there, but you can also find them at Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. You can head to the nearest Walmart today, walk into the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of the cookies and cream, the double chocolate, which is my personal favorite, or coconut puff. And if you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors like brownie batter. Oh, brownie batter is so freaking good. So we tell you, when you grab a Built Bar, you're not going to be disappointed. So either head to Built.com, Sam's Club, or to your local Walmart and grab yourself some Built Bar. Happy snacking. And now let's get you, or I should say, before I get you to the next part of my interview with Ty Dane Gonzalez, I want to remind you about Locked On NHL Prospects with Hattie Kalakash. I've been talking about this podcast for a really long time. Actually, Hattie, his first introduction to the Locked On network was on Locked On Kraken, and we talk a lot about Shane Wright and Matty Beniers. It's a really good time, especially coming off of the heels of World Juniors, to start talking prospects, and Hattie's got you over on Locked On NHL Prospects. Okay, now let's head over to the rest of my conversation with Ty Dane Gonzalez. All right, Ty, we got your initial reactions to the Winter Classic coming to T-Mobile Park. But before we get to transform likely the outfield into a hockey rink, T-Mobile Park is going to bring the best of Major League Baseball to Seattle this summer in the 2023 All-Star Weekend. So it's just like back to back here for Seattle. I'm sure you've talked about it on your podcast, but for the Locked On Kraken fans, what's the buzz as we are now within the year? We are months away from the All-Star festivities coming to T-Mobile?
The All-Star Game is such a beautiful event, and they hosted it when it was called Safeco Field back in 2001. And obviously I'm biased, but that's my favorite All-Star Game of all time. I was like 5 years old when they had that, and I videotaped that thing on VHS, and I probably watched that thing like 8 or 9 times. Cal Ripken's home run, all that stuff. It's great. There's a lot of legacy involved in that, and it's going to be great to bring the All-Star Game back to T-Mobile Park, to have the home run derby. Of course, that's going to be a lot of fun, and I think one Julio Rodriguez, barring any sort of injury, is likely going to participate in that. So that should be a lot of fun. And they recently added the MLB draft to the All-Star Week as well, as of a couple of years ago. So the MLB draft will undergo there as well, and the Mariners have 3 top 30 selections in that draft, so they're going to be pretty active on the first night. So yeah,
I love that. Kraken, Mariners locking up the draft picks.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They a lot of young stars right now in Seattle, with Julio, with Matty B, soon to be Shane Wright. Like it's gonna be a lot of, it's a really fun time to be a Seattle sports fan in general. Seahawks got a lot of young guys that are coming up too. It's just there's a lot of fun stuff happening right now. But yeah, with All-Star Week, it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's going to be a buzz in that city. This is something that I think the city really needs and deserves, especially with the way that the Mariners are starting to get themselves back on the map right now. I think there's just no better time for the All-Star Game to be in Seattle, with guys like Julio and Cal Raleigh. It's just going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to try my best to get out there. I'm really going to try my best to get out there. So there might be some Locked On Mariners stuff happening in Seattle around the All-Star Game. We'll see. Not promising anything, but I'm going to try.
I hear that. All right. Kraken crew, this is what we have to do. We're going to manifest that for Locked On Mariners. We want good vibes there. We're going to manifest that for them. We believe in manifestation over here.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, and I think, again, I mentioned that, Ken Griffey Jr. is such an iconic, just baseball legend in general, but has made his way back to the Mariners. And he announced that there's going to be the first ever Swingman Classic. So you're really going to have an opportunity, if you do make it out there, or anyone else that's able to go, there's really going to be kind of 2 All-Star games. It's obviously the MLB All-Star Game and Home Run Derby, but then also HBCU, of course, for those who don't know, stands for Historically Black College and University. And so Ken Griffey Jr., this is his way of working with MLB and the MLBPA to get more Black athletes and athletes of color into the sport, and profiling them, showcasing them right alongside the MLB All-Star Weekend. So I've been keeping tabs on that story, even outside of obviously Locked On Kraken. It's not a direct hit with Locked On Kraken, but I think that's going to be amazing. There's just some really great stuff that Seattle is doing. I have been going to Seattle for years, even before the Kraken came through. And what I enjoy about what the city is trying to do is really embrace all of the cultural elements, those that are older, or, a part of the city's iconic history, and also as the city changes. And I think the sports landscape has really embraced that. I know the Lewicki brothers, at least on our end, have. So I always look for those stories, obviously being a Black woman and a Latina in sports media. So I love to see that, and I'm really excited for that. But, I also want to get into a little bit about what we saw from the M's. I've talked on Locked On Kraken before. I was following what was happening. We talked about, of course, the run this past season, even the season before that, when I was actually out in Seattle. We were getting ready for our first training camp. But you mentioned it, that this is something in the All-Star Weekend, and of course now the Winter Classic, that this city really needs and deserves when it comes to the M's and how they've been performing and what the trajectory is for next season. Ty, what can you tell Kraken fans about what to expect about their Mariners?
Yeah, the Mariners are in a great spot right now. Probably the best spot that they've been in since the early 2000s, with young guys like Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh and George Kirby, and the list goes on and on and on. There are so many names and faces that made this past year just incredible to watch. It was an honor, honestly, to kind of just help tell their story over the course of this year. This team that made history, that broke the drought in the way that it did, and wound up playing in one of the greatest playoff games of all time. Honestly, two of the greatest playoff games of all time. If you want to count the 18 inning slog against the Astros, we don't want to remember that though. But yeah, I mean, it was just an incredible story, and even with guys like Mitch Haniger, Adam Frazier, etc., exiting this offseason, they've brought in players like Colton Wong and Teoscar Hernandez, who are going to energize this ball club and bring a lot to this ball club. And I think fans are going to be very, very excited to get to know those guys and see what they can do. I've been a fan of Teoscar Hernandez for a long time. Of course, I live in Toronto. He's played for the Blue Jays the last few years. He's a lot of fun to watch, and he's going to bring a lot to this team, I believe. And they're still not done, right? Like, they have, left. They basically haven't done anything with free agency, right? And there's a whole discussion that can be had about that. We won't get too far into the weeds about that on this show. But they are still far better than they were last opening day, and I think that's the most important thing here. And there's still a lot of time for them to go out on the trade market and see if there's anything else they can add. Right now, the big target is Brian Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates, outfielder. He's going to cost a lot, and I don't know if they actually have what it takes to land him. But if they did, they'd be in a pretty nice spot to start really, really coming after the Astros and giving them some problems. So fun times in Seattle, and I think that we're getting pretty close to this team contending for a World Series.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can't wait to see it. Of course, this is that time of year for you and your podcast while we're kind of just ramping up and really getting into the meat of the season. But we will have the trade deadline coming just in a few months. And I know, Ty, you've got some questions regarding that. So we're going to get into that next. But I would be remiss, since we're talking about the Mariners and their roster, I have to, of course, mention Elon University legend George Kirby.
That's right, baby. That's right. That's right.
I got my Elon. I went to Elon University. It's in North Carolina.
Awesome.
So, we share that bond as well as Seattle sports. But, and I pick up the magazine and there's a story on Kirby in there. So it was awesome that we got to do this squadcast right then. But all right, Ty, you're going to put me in the hot seat here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Seattle Kraken roster, your most pressing questions as a new hockey fan. You've got a team to root for now. So we'll have you fire away coming up next on this crossover or squadcast episode of Locked On Kraken and Locked On Mariners. All right, we are down in the home stretch, as they like to say in baseball. So let's do it, Ty. You've got some questions, and hopefully I'll do all right holding it down for the Kraken fan base. But what are your most burning questions for me regarding the Seattle Kraken?
All right, so all of these are probably going to be more so personal than for like the entire fan base. But
okay,
you know what? We're just I'm going to make use of my time here, right?
All right.
So, First question doesn't have to do with the Kraken. I'm going to my first hockey game tomorrow. Like I said, any tips? What should I do? Like, what do I do with my hands? What do I do at a hockey game? What am I supposed to do? I've never been to a hockey game before. I have no idea how to act. Also, I'm going to be in enemy territory, right? It's the Leafs. It's Scotiabank Arena.
Yes.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm the enemy there. So what do I do?
Okay, well, first things first, if you own any Seattle gear, I highly recommend you wear it because Root Sports is probably going to pick you up. I love this segment that they do and they like pan the audience and they look for the Seattle fans. So that's number one. I can't guarantee it's the safest thing, but I know Toronto fans are pretty intense, but I think
the other conference, come on, we only see each other twice a year. It doesn't matter.
I'm with you. And
let's be real, we're never going to see each other in the cup.
Yeah, it's not now. I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I feel like if you have sporting gear, you either bought it or it was given to you. You have every right to wear it anytime you want. Now, what I will say is I made the very big mistake of wearing, it was like a crossover baseball hockey thing. And so I'm thinking, all right, I'll wear it was from the Brooklyn Cyclones. So this is a team that plays, in the middle of summer. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to go. I'm wearing a hockey jersey. It's going to be fine. I'll be warm. It'll be great. I still have my coat. No, I was absolutely freezing. Just in case it's not evidently clear, the thickness and the way you make a hockey jersey for a baseball team is completely different than a hockey jersey for a hockey team. So I don't know about you, but I don't like being cold. So I would just dress appropriately, make sure that, you have a few layers. That's for sure. As far as what to do with your hands, honestly, it's not dissimilar to going to a baseball game. That every arena has their thing, and it's I think it's going to be a good time. So I think things move a lot quicker. We're used to being able to stretch and just kind of watch things just percolate nice and slow, more of a simmer. Things move faster in hockey, so you definitely got to know that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in and out of there. It's gonna be crazy. I'm gonna go at 7 and I'm gonna be out at 9:30. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's fine. And there's 2 7th inning stretches. You should probably know that. They call them intermissions. So it'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah. It'll be great. It'll be great. Yeah, I'm gonna wear my Kraken away jersey. Hoodie, all that good stuff. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Yes,
all right,
do it.
All right, let's talk about our boys.
Okay.
So the one thing that I'll say about the Kraken in general is so I cover the Seahawks, I cover the Mariners. I'm just keeping it casual with the Kraken, and I'm staying there, and I like that. I've been enjoying just watching the Kraken as a fan and reacting just as a fan. I don't have to think critically about it. It's been great. However, I love roster construction. I love roster building. I love transactions. I love all that stuff. We talk about it all the time on Locked On Mariners. Me and my co-host Colby, we just love that stuff. I want to know, because the Kraken are contending right now. They're in a playoff spot. Season ended today. They're in a playoff spot. I know the deadline's coming up in a couple of months. What can we realistically look for, considering where this team is right now in its development? A lot of young guys still kind of just trying to figure it out, how this roster is ultimately going to come together. But what do you do in a year like this?
That's a great question. And it's something that I definitely have my inklings and my opinion on, but I honestly am not sure what Seattle's going to do. I have been saying, anyone who listens to Locked On Kraken for 5 seconds knows that I am not pleased with how we've constructed our defense. I do think we need some more